Have you ever written something that you thought was, perfect? Every comma is in place, every word is just right, but then it just completely falls flat? It's a super common and a super frustrating problem. But what if I told you the solution is all about seeing your writing through two secret lenses? Let's dive in.
I mean, we've all been there, right? That email you proofread 5 times, that report you polished for hours. It's grammatically flawless, but it just doesn't land. It fails to persuade, or it doesn't connect with anyone. This isn't just bad luck. There's a really specific reason this happens, and it all comes down to a simple imbalance.
And here's the secret. Effective writing isn't just one single skill. It's actually a delicate balance between two completely different sides of the coin. Think of it like a scale. Most of us are only taught to pile weight on one side, but the real impact, the real power, comes from mastering both. And once you see these two sides, trust me, you'll start noticing them everywhere.
So to really get a handle on these two sides, let's imagine we have two different tools, two different lenses. One is like a microscope, and the other is a telescope. One lets you zoom way in on all the tiny, intricate details, while the other pulls way back to show you the entire landscape. Great writers, they know exactly when to switch between the two.
All right, so let's start by grabbing our microscope. With this first lens, we're going to zoom all the way in on what we can call the blueprint of the writing. That's the technical, foundational structure that holds every single word and sentence together. In linguistics, this is what's known as text. And really, it's the tangible thing you can see and analyze, the actual words, sentences, and paragraphs on the page. It's the writing itself looked at in total isolation. Just like an architect's blueprint, it's precise, it's structured, and it's totally self-contained.
And when we're looking at that blueprint, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing its core components. This text lens is purely focused on the internal mechanics. Is the grammar correct? Do the sentences flow together? Is the organization logical? It's all about the formal, technical correctness of the writing itself.
Okay, now, let's put down the microscope and pick up our telescope. We're zooming out, way out, from that detailed blueprint to see the bigger picture. Where is this building located? Who is it for? And why was it even built in the first place? This lens isn't about the structure anymore. It's about the conversation that piece of writing is having with the world. This bigger picture view is what we call discourse. It's the text in action. It's language being used for a reason in a real social situation. So it's not just the words on the page, it's the text plus the writer's intention, the audience's interpretation, and the whole context that's wrapped around the communication. So the discourse lens focuses on all the human stuff. What was the writer actually trying to do here? Who are they talking to? What's the cultural background noise? It's all about the pragmatic meaning, what the words are actually doing. Are they persuading you, informing you, warning you? That's the heart of discourse. So let's put them right next to each other to make it super clear. Text is a fixed product, right? The thing on the page. But discourse is a dynamic process. Text focuses on the internal structure. Discourse focuses on the external meaning. And here's the key takeaway. A grammatically perfect text that completely fails to achieve its communicative purpose is, by definition, weak discourse. Okay, so we've got our two lenses, but what happens when a writer gets stuck using only one? This is where this whole theory gets incredibly real and practical. First up, let's meet the perfectionist. This writer is absolutely obsessed with that first lens, the blueprint. They agonize over every word choice, every sentence structure, every single grammatical rule. For them, if a comma is out of place, it's a catastrophe. And what's the result? A flawless text that feels, well, robotic, because they completely ignored the audience, the context, the purpose. The writing fails to connect. It's technically perfect, but communicatively, it's empty. In other words, strong text, weak discourse. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have the free spirit. This writer lives and breathes through that second lens, the conversation. They are all about passion, big ideas, and just getting their message out there, whatever it takes. Meaning is everything. But all that passion comes at a price. Their ideas might be absolutely brilliant, but the writing itself is a mess. It's full of errors, it lacks clear organization, and frankly, it's hard for a reader to follow. Their amazing ideas get buried under a weak structure. So in this case, we have a strong discourse, but a very weak text. So how do we avoid these traps? Well, a balanced writing process is the answer. You start with the discourse lens, brainstorming your big ideas, thinking hard about your audience and your purpose. It's only after that that you switch to the text lens, for editing, for structure, for correctness. You start the conversation first, and then you perfect the blueprint.
So where does this all lead? How do we get to mastery? Well, the goal isn't to pick a favorite lens. The real skill is in learning how to switch between them seamlessly, knowing exactly when to focus on the big picture and when it's time to zoom in on the fine details.
Ultimately, the goal is what's called fluency controlled by grammaticality. What does that mean? It means you get that free-flowing, powerful communication you see with the discourse lens, but you make sure it's supported by the strong, clear, correct structure of the text lens. It's the absolute perfect marriage of both worlds.
And this really brings us back to that idea of balance. If you lean too far towards text, your writing becomes robotic, mechanical, lifeless. If you lean too far towards discourse, it just becomes chaotic and ultimately ineffective. True mastery is found by walking that fine line right down the middle.
So, I'll leave you with a final question to think about. When you sit down to write, which lens do you naturally look through first? Are you a perfectionist, always starting with the blueprint? Or are you more of a free spirit, lost in the conversation? Just knowing your own starting point is the very first step toward finding that powerful, effective balance. Thanks for tuning in.